I'm joined today by a few members of my team, including Brandon Ruiz, product manager, also Josh Eastburn, our director of marketing. We have Ivan from our solutions team here, and we have some experts in the background ready to field your Q&A questions. So please use the Q&A panel. We will get to your questions at the end. If we aren't able to get to your questions today, then we will get back to you with by email with a response. So in today's session, we'll cover a few things. For one, we'll give you a company overview. We'll show you where we sit as a software and this platform as a platform. We'll talk about some of our data integrations, and especially our integration with Kafka, which is a very popular duo that we see implemented EMQ and Kafka. And then we will cover some product updates, and we'll have a Q&A session where you can talk to our experts. So a little bit about EMQ. We started as an open source project in 2013. We focus on MQTT messaging and are the world's #1 MQTT broker. MQTT is a very efficient messaging protocol, very lightweight, and especially useful in scenarios where you don't have a lot of bandwidth or you don't have a lot of resources, onboard resources like RAM, or memory, CPU. Very efficient, again, in those types of scenarios. So I'll give you an overview of some of our products. We have several options for deployment, including serverless, dedicated, so you can or dedicated cloud. We have bring your own cloud, and we're compatible with every major public cloud provider. So no matter where you're hosting, no matter where your data is, we can help bridge that. We can help bring in that sensor data and deliver it either to the cloud or to your infrastructure. So EMQX, our EMQX broker is definitely at the core of our product set, but we also have Neuron EX and NanoMQ to help on the edge side as ultra lightweight edge processing to bring that sensor data to bridge that your sensor information from the edge into the cloud. And then also we have some service and testing tools like MQTTX and XMeter. So which MQTTX is our all-in-one MQTT client toolbox, and a way to when you get into your proof of concepts and you want to test information or simulate clients connecting to your broker, it's a great tool. So now let's talk a little bit about our architecture and where we sit in your infrastructure. So again, Neuron is at the edge, bringing in that sensor data. So we have a rules engine, as you can see here. We have a rules engine that sits within our broker to help you filter and bring in the data that's important to you. And there's a lot going on in this slide, so I won't point out every bullet, but again, you can see where we sit here on the left, where in this example is an IIoT example where we have information coming in by Modbus, by Ethernet, and that information is being brought in. So combining multiple protocols with Neuron, streaming that data in and over MQTT. So we support Sparkplug, we support MQTT SN or MQTT for sensor networks, and also recently even support the delivery of MQTT over QUIC using the UDP protocol. So several ways to get your data safely from and reliably from edge to cloud. And the point of that is, right, when you get to the cloud, now you can use those services that you used to for your data, including big data, AI services, services like Redis, and so Brandon will talk a little bit more about those integrations and the 40 plus integrations that we have that are ready for you to bridge your applications with little or no code. And so let's talk a little bit about now that you know where we sit, let's talk a little bit about an example use case. And this use case is smart ships. It's actually from one of our customers, Alpha Ori, who provide data from these ships in order to monitor onboard assets, alarm management, power monitoring, engine status, ship controls, and GPS system. So with the combination of all of this data and including weather information, Alpha Ori is able to actually reduce the amount of fuel used for each voyage by tens of thousands of dollars by suggesting the most optimal route based on weather conditions, hull resistance, engine performance. So all this data comes together, not just for one ship, but for your fleet of ships. And again, MQTT and the EMQX broker sit at the core of this and being able to bring in that data in real time, right? So what is real time? Real time is less than a second. And so when you have millisecond latency, you're able to get in the realm of proactivity, proactively monitor, proactively handle issues and make changes. And so that real-time reliable messaging sits at the core of this solution. And here again, you can see that our EMQ, what we call our ECP, is that group of tools that take your information from, again, the edge all the way to the cloud. So in this case, being able to bring in that data and create a digital twin or a digital clone that can be used to simulate changes to a particular ship or to its environment to help predict in how that system would act or how that ship would respond under certain conditions.
Can I
And
jump in on that too? Uh,
sure,
for those of you who are here with an interest in building large scale systems, ECP is of particular note. That's really what that was designed to help with, where we have, you know, some users who are in the early phases of their kind of IoT journey, and maybe they're running a single broker, right, or a single EMQX cluster. We have others who are on the other end of that, where they need to run multiple clusters, either co-located or across multiple regions. And as the system scales up, the administrative overhead does also. ECP was designed to make that more manageable, right? One single pane of glass, as they say, to manage all of your clusters wherever they are in the world.
thank you for that, Josh. And so now that we know a little bit about EMQ, our broker, where it sits, let's talk about some of the integrations and client programming. So we have a pretty large library of tools help simplify the process of incorporating MQTT communication into your applications. And so these sets of APIs handle the underlying details of the protocol. And so the key functionality for these libraries is one, connectivity, establishing and maintaining a connection between your MQTT broker and the edge. And also handling the secure communication between your publishers and subscribers. So these libraries, we again for everything from Python, Java, PHP. So whatever your preferred language is, we can help you with that. This APIs help you connect to your system and handle things like quality of service, supporting whether we deliver an MQTT message once, at least once, or most once, or at most once. So varied quality of service levels, and also error handling to manage any errors or exceptions that may occur during connection or not connecting. And also these will handle the asynchronous communication between your application and MQTT events and messages. So these resources and many more are on our website and in our community. Many of you have joined today from our Discord community and Slack community. So we thank you for that participation there. And if you are not a part of that community, join us today on Slack, on Discord. We do our office hours once monthly, and we also have a specialized webinar monthly that dives into particular industries or topics. So make sure that thanks, David. I see your question there. And so as a reminder, please make sure you put all of your questions in Q&A. We do have our panel of experts. Thank you, June, for joining us. I know it's late where you are. So make sure that if you're out there, again, you're joining our communities, you're subscribing to our webinars and our newsletter. Then we also our team does a great job on doing tutorials to help you integrate to whether anything from implementing different APIs as I showed you to step-by-step tutorials on how to launch our broker in your environment, whether you're using Kubernetes or Docker or you're launching into public cloud. We have detailed tutorials that will help you walk through that. Also, we have demo videos on YouTube and plenty of resources on GitHub. So that's my overview of our products and a way for you to get some information on your own. And now I'll hand off to Brandon to talk about some of our data integrations and some in particular that integration with Kafka that we spoke about.
Thank you, Ernest. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Very excited to meet and speak with you, especially during the holiday season. So as Ernest said, I will be diving more into the data integrations, drilling into some specific instances and capabilities. And so with that, we'll jump right in to dive into our core data integration capabilities, starting with our built-in IoT engine, which essentially it's a powerhouse for real-time IoT data extraction, filtering, enrichment, and transformation between the different systems. And we're able to intelligently process data from various different IoT devices and really apply the rules you've configured live, right? And So essentially, think of it as a smart data organizer that neatly arranges and delivers the data you need exactly how you want it for your different apps. And this is especially important when you're dealing with massive amounts and volumes of data. And as we know, as the world becomes more connected, that's becoming more of an increasing problem in case that we need to solve. So this streamlines the data processing and makes it more manageable and meaningful for your different, unique business cases. Moving on to SQL-based data processing. I know many of you are already familiar with SQL, which is a language for to use and interact with databases. But here's the twist for what we're doing. We apply SQL not just to databases, but also to the live data streams. So with our platform, writing SQL queries will allow you to perform more complex data processing operations on the fly. And it's really about bringing the power and familiarity that comes with SQL to the world of IoT data streams. So uh, applying it in a different way. So this approach really is meant to accelerate the IoT applications and development. So it'll let you be able to write and modify and even deploy your processing logic that much faster, right? And hopefully easier. And the best part is you don't really need to be a data scientist to be able to harness this type of capability or this power, right? Continuing on to the data bridge integration, I do want to say that essentially it's a universal adapter for your different IoT data. So seamlessly is going to connect your ecosystem with over 40 different systems, as Ernest had mentioned earlier, and essentially giving you connections to hundreds of millions of different devices. So whether you're integrating with message queues like Kafka, Rabbit, MQ, or interfacing with other, various SQL or NoSQL databases, time series databases, our data bridges makes it happen that much more effortlessly and simple. So that's really the beauty and is the simplicity and flexibility of our data bridge capability. And again, you don't need to write an extensive code or deploy multiple integration tools. You can achieve this in just a matter of clicks and get your data flowing where you need it to go. Very simple. Next slide, please.
While you're transitioning, I'll just jump in and say,
Yeah.
as the marketing director, I've spent a lot of time talking to different users and different parts of that kind of IoT journey that I mentioned before. And I think I took for granted how much ease of use really matters. And that's the thing that I've probably heard most often from people who are really using EMQX heavily is like, this is really easy. It makes it easy for me to just build the plumbing and let it do its thing. And then I don't have to worry about, what is it going to stand up or how do I build apps on top of it? So yeah, that's been a lesson learned for me. And I think it's a big value that we offer for our users.
Thanks, Josh. Totally agree. So as Ernest mentioned, we did talk at a high level, broad scope, looking at integrations, but now we want to drill into more specifics, in this case being Kafka. So as we know, the Kafka integration really is that crucial pillar of our IoT ecosystem. And it's not just about technical synergies. It's really about harnessing that foundational strength of Kafka, right? And it's Kafka has become the bedrock for streaming data over the years, so much so that 70% of Fortune 500 companies are using it. So we did want to make it a point to really nail down that integration, make it as seamless as possible. So some of the areas of its strengths, bidirectional connectivity. So being able to have that capability with Kafka, it really epitomizes efficiency for us. And it seamlessly handles the data from devices to Kafka and back, and it enables that responsive IoT applications. Also, flexibility is at the core of our integration with topic mapping. So whether you're doing one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-many configurations, you also have MQT topic filters. We're able to adapt to various data management scenarios pretty easily. And also for the EMQX Kafka producers, we do support synchronous and asynchronous modes. So it helps with balancing latency, throughput, and it ultimately meets those diverse application needs that are out there. And now to like expand on Kafka and our continued growth and interest in that area, I wanted to briefly talk to you a bit about our recent partnership with Confluent, which was founded by the same creators of Kafka or Apache Kafka. And it essentially takes the foundational platform to that next level, right? And it offers you that complete, fully managed cloud native data streaming service. So it's designed to be available where your data and applications are, and ultimately, again, simplifies those complexities of managing the data infrastructure. So by integrating with Confluent, we're ultimately leveraging their comprehensive feature stack. So, from connectors, security, and monitoring to governance. So it really enhances our ability to handle massive IoT volumes with reliability, scalability, which is important to us, and it's essential for modern IoT use cases and instances. So to really recap the integration with Kafka and our partnership with Confluent, it's showing our continued advancement and commitment to IoT data pipelines as it becomes an increasing need. And it's not just about data flow, it's all about the new industry standards for data integration and management broadly.
Thanks, Brenda. I
Uh,
would also like to add, because some may ask the question of what's the value, right, of using both together, right?
yeah.
Why wouldn't I just use Kafka or just use EMQX? And the answer is the value and the power of the two together, and this
Hmm.
integration is that power of MQTT to be able to again go out and retrieve that data
Hmm.
reliably and in real time and stream that data into Kafka, right? Because typically Kafka is installed, is located in a place that's very well connected, right? In your network infrastructure, right? So again, the power of the two together increases the reliability of your IoT network.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. So thanks for mentioning that. Like we designed EMQX with the understanding that typically people are not dropping this into a greenfield scenario, right? There's some kind of existing infrastructure in place already. And in order to provide high efficiency MQTT services to whatever that infrastructure is, our piece needs to be compatible with all of the other pieces, right? And as you mentioned, Brandon, Kafka is hugely popular, so it just makes sense, right? You need a way to easily bridge that MQTT data into Kafka. Kafka doesn't necessarily solve the problem though of the lightweight data collection that
Hmm.
MQTT offers, right? You need a way to be able to pair the both. And so we've tried to make that as easy as possible.
Thank you. Both important notes. I appreciate it. Next slide, please. So now that we've talked about, broadly the integrations and zeroed in on Kafka, Confluent, and the continued importance and growth there, really wanted to shift gears and focused on Flows Designer in EMQX, which is our intuitive drag and drop low code interface that Ernest had mentioned earlier in the presentation. So similar to something like a Node-RED, that would be an external tool or system that you would use. Um, this drag and drop interface allows you to quickly connect with over 40 different data systems. So where you would normally have to go through the SQL language to code it in, now you can go ahead and just drag in real time and be able to adapt and map these things together. But if you were, for those that do like to get your hands dirty on code, to be able to toggle and switch between UI and SQL editor, it's just a click to be able to do so. But this is supposed to give you a way to interface with integrations without being that expert, having that deep knowledge of the SQL language. So it really drills again back to speed to implementation, simplicity, and being able to manage and interface with these other rich tools and feature sets. So you also get effortless monitoring through this, and again allows you to make those real-time adaptations and upgrades on the fly as needed.
Thanks, Brandon. So as Josh mentioned, you don't have to be an IoT expert to build these workflows, and that's something I've heard from a lot of our customers that I've spoken to recently, is that they love the GUI, how easy it is, how you can do
Mhm.
everything that you need to within it. One recent customer said that it took him longer to learn how to launch Kubernetes, the Kubernetes container than it did to set up his broker,
Mhm.
because everything was there in the GUI. You drop in the integration. You can easily have these visual cues, to see your different workflows, right? And in the case of, for example, in this case, right, you may have a workflow that delivers data to Kafka for one particular application, and then another for monitoring. And so you can separate out these workflows in your flow designer, but still have a comprehensive view of your IoT workflow. And that's the value that our flows designer provides. Very easy to work with, and very easy to see visually what's happening with your workflow.
Yeah, and this once was a static view, but now it is fully operationable and editable, right? So do encourage you to take a look and to give it a ride. It will really streamline your processes.
Anyone who's
And
familiar
with
with Node-RED, by the way, a pretty popular open source IoT tool that uses a similar visual format, should be pretty comfortable using this too.
Got it. Thank you. And with that, I would like to hand things over to Ivan to talk through the upcoming innovations that we have.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, guys. So 5.4.0 is planned to be released in December. We are finishing up last rounds of testing. And one of the major features that we would like to announce is a preview release of session persistence with RocksDB. A little bit of history behind that is that we used to have session persistence in version 4 using external databases, but we found that it's funky, like it's not working very stable and performance is not really great. And then we had an attempt to try that. We built in Ninja database in version 5, and the management was easier, but the performance was really bad when we were trying to scale it. And the RocksDB, by our preliminary test, shows that the performance does not suffer, and it should work pretty well. So we'll see. But this release will have some limitations, so it's not like kind of fully featured, and we will document this extensively. Second, we also will, so we are refactoring and changing the way we talk about bridges and that we structure bridges internally. So we now, to allow better flexibility, we now introduce, kind of split the bridge into two to have a connector and action. So before, like it, for regulars, it shouldn't matter, but if you're a power user, which has a lot of different bridges, you might find this very useful. So for example, if you have a rule engine, a rule that has to work with like maybe same database server, but you have like kind of different ways of processing messages. So you would configure a database server, like if you have 100 rules, you would configure 100 times the same connection. Now you would be able to configure connection to one resource once, and then just reference it from the rule engine, like from the actions, like to see what has to be done by leveraging this connection. Then we also finishing, so we have finished integrate open telemetry support. So we already released metrics before, and now we are adding logs and traces for OpenTelemetry standard. And even so, with OpenTelemetry integration, and even without that, you could have used Prometheus endpoint to integrate with Datadog. We are now adding our official support for like integrating with Datadog natively. We also make it more convenient to use, so when you configure integration with third-party, I don't know, like databases and stuff, you should configure some data sensitive, like credentials. So now you can use native Docker secrets to store this information and mount to your containers. Also added HTTP API for configuration and user data import and export. Added support for more gateways, and as usual, lots of bug fixes and performance improvements. And some of the enterprise features is going to be audit log, just a separate log stream to log all the actions and potentially configuration altering changes. And also like first preliminary release of role-based access control for the REST API. So it's very basic for now. It only has admin, viewer, publisher roles, but it's more than we had before. So before we used to have only, so you have a dashboard user and it has and do everything. Now you can have different roles for different users. So some have admin privileges and some other users have only viewer privileges. Thank you. That's it from me.
Hey, Ivan, there was a question that came in on the Q&A. How comprehensive is the audit log that will be added to the Enterprise Edition? If I'm correct, we introduced an early version of the audit log in 5.3. Is that right? And 5.4 is kind of expanding on that?
I think you're right. Yeah. So I'm afraid I don't have the comprehensive information, but when we release it, please take note of the release notes. So we will document this stuff.
Yeah, we dropped a link to the docs in the chat. Okay, if you have anything else on that. I know it's the goal is that we're capturing user activities as well as the result of those activities. That's kind of my general understanding, right? So whether that's through API or through the dashboard or whatnot, is that correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Right. And the goal of that is accountability, right? Because you want to know who's making changes in your system and when actions are taken that affects your workflow. And so that audit log becomes very important, especially when your industry has to deal with some type of compliance. Right. So you're able to go in and know exactly when changes were made and who made those changes.
Yeah, this is another aspect of, well, I guess it's listed there as an enterprise feature, and that's exactly right because yeah, for larger organizations where you might have multiple teams interacting with your IoT infrastructure, this becomes important. You might have a core architecture team, right? That's in charge of EMQX, owns the system, defines the data flows and that kind of thing. You might have a secondary team that provides like a frontline tech support, right? You may not want them to have full access. They might be on a different shift on a different part of the world. And you want to know how they're interacting with the system while you're asleep, for example. So that's exactly the kind of use case that we're targeting with this.
Thanks, Josh. And actually, we are into deep into our Q&A portion here, and thank you for all that have entered questions into the chat. But I also want to encourage you. One of the goals here for our office hours is we want to hear about your projects. We want to hear about what you're working on. And so I see in the chat also we have some questions about the Amazon gift card that we are giving away. And so if you would like to enter that, please participate. Please, again, tell us a little bit about your project, about integrations you're working on, because we want to be able to speak to topics that are relevant for you, and you will decide what our future office hours will consist of. So again, thanks for your participation. If you want the gift card, let's see you. Let's see some show and tell, and let's hear about your products. But meanwhile, while you're typing those questions, I also let me recap some of the Q&A that we've already had. and we had some great questions here. Paul asked, are there low code and no code integrations? And we answered that yes. For example, EMQ can work with Node-RED. You can define EMQX as one component in Node-RED, and we have videos, we have tutorials that will help you implement step by step, implement these integrations. Also, I want to mention that our support for Quick. So we have several questions that came in around our support for Quick, and again, we are the first MQTT broker to support Quick. And the Quick protocol is the underlying protocol for the next version of HTTP, and so it's great for browsers. It's great for services that are network connected, but don't, just like MQTT, don't have the best connectivity. And so Quick takes it to the next level. One industry that we're seeing that's really taking off in is the automotive industry, where you may have a vehicle that's traveling through several different networks, right? And maybe switching cell towers, maybe even switching the network layer itself. And so MQTT over Quick is great for bringing that data in those times where you're switching networks. And during this session Q&A, again, we encourage your participation. So if you would like to join, we'll unmute and let you talk to our experts.
Are we doing this selectively? Are we asking people to raise their hands and then we'll unmute them?
Yes, please raise your hand and we will unmute you so you can ask our panel.
So I think I'm midway as well. I think I've given permission to mostly everyone to talk. So guys, please feel free, unmute yourselves, talk to us. I think there were a lot of questions regarding the vouchers. Wish we could provide the vouchers to each one of you, though our hands are tied. So it would be
Unlimited is fun. Come on.
So it would be based on engagement, is what we thought of. One way is that you could speak to us directly. The other way is that we are also running a short survey. I'll launch the survey in some time. And there's a question with regards to your scenario of using EMQ, or the future scenario where you are evaluating EMQ as a product for your IoT solutions. So please feel free to enter the details and we will get back to you in a couple of days with regards to the results of the uh, Amazon vouchers. So please feel free, take this opportunity. I know talking to experts, making the right connect with organizations is really important for developers. So I would highly recommend for you to utilize this time and talk to our experts, who are present
We've
here.
got a couple who've come off of mute. I don't know if that was intentional or accidental, but we can call them out anyway. We got Allison's at the top of the list. Amy, going down the list here. Daniel, feel free to jump in.
Anthony.
While we're waiting on that, let me also mention so one of the things that I think really differentiate us in when you're trying, especially when you're trying to execute a large enterprise IoT project, is support, right? So I know that you have options. There are some open source, there are maybe even some free options out there that you can implement to start off your IoT solution. But one of the differences with us is that support you get. So many of the enterprises we work with, when we're helping them implement their workflow, we work with them through Slack channels so that your team has direct access to us, and that really helps accelerate the implementation when you run into an issue and you're able to get that support quickly, be able to get solutions quickly. And I see that our poll is open. So again, we encourage your participation, so we can give you that Amazon gift card. So we have a few questions in our poll. How did you like our office session today? And will you be joining our community either over Slack or Discord? And again, if you want to contact our sales team, we have our information here, sales at emq.io, and also partner at emqx.io. We Brandon talked about our recent integration with Confluent, and so we're always looking to add partnerships that add value. We're a Google Premier partner. We are available in AWS Marketplace. We're available on Azure, and so again, just about anywhere you want to deploy and however you want to deploy, we can support that. If I see that some of you are having trouble being able to access audio, please, if you're having problems with audio, please drop your questions into Q&A. And again, we'll try to field those questions right away. What was that, Josh?
I was going to say it still counts. If you want to share something in the chat about your project for show and tell, that still counts.
Yes, yes. And for future sessions, because we'll be doing this monthly. So if it's something you want to hear more about, an integration that you're interested in, drop us a line.
Manan, Ravi S is asking about joining Discord. Could you drop a link in the chat, an invite link? Discord is definitely our most active, Ravi. So yeah, we'd love to see you there. And we'll try to get a link to you here in a second. Question about DigitalOcean. This feels like one for Ivan.
Depends what you mean by connecting with DigitalOcean. If you can deploy EMQX, yeah, you can take EMQX and run it wherever you want. But if you are talking about our cloud, I don't think that we have integration with DigitalOcean. So we have AWS, GCP, and I believe LA Cloud.
Yeah, plus a number of others. Let us know if that answers your question, David. Aha, there's the link. You can find all of our community links there in the chat through that one page that Manan just dropped.
Yeah, I would definitely say that Discord is one of our most popular. But again, when implementing your project, in particular, a lot of times we use Slack to engage with your team, whether that's your engineering team or your project team, and so it makes you really feel like you have a partner when you're implementing your solutions.
Paul mentions he's going to CES. Is that next month?
Yep.
I've had
Beginning of
aspirations.
January.
Have you been?
I've been 4 or 5 times. Pretty pretty large show. Safe travels if you do end up attending, and let us know about all of the new exciting innovations and products you're seeing out there when you go. Happy to hear about your project when you come back.
Yeah, I'd be really interested to hear what you're working on, even if it's in the early stages, Paul. We've been kicking around the idea of going to CES, maybe for a similar reason. There's a huge automotive presence in CES in recent years. Yeah, because shoot, vehicles are the next big territory for these kind of, connected services types of applications. Yeah, so if you're thinking of something in that space, that'd be pretty cool to hear about.
Yes, actually, the last few events that I've been to recently, now that you mention it, Josh, were automotive industry events. And because of the value we bring, not just to be able to bring in that telemetry from the connected car itself, but we are very involved in IoT on the manufacturing floor also. So we have automotive manufacturers that we work with on their floor to monitor robotic arms, to monitor sprayers, to monitor those machines and processes that happen during automotive manufacturing. So we have the automotive manufacturing side, we have the connected cars themselves, and then MQTT is a great way too to manage your EV charging infrastructure. So we're really spread out across many industries, but lately automotive is, and then too with the addition of MQTT over Quick, I mean it's a solution that makes sense with for connected cars.
Yeah, a lot of interest in in-vehicle data processing as well. The Connected Vehicles Europe show that I was at a couple weeks back had a few really interesting conversations about more edge computing happening in the vehicle, right? Trying to process data, trying to pull out insights in vehicle and shift some of the workload from the cloud to the edge. So that's pretty cool to hear people are working on that. A couple of questions from Ravi. I see June's working on an answer to one. For on-premise installation for a broker, do you support us on how many systems required and hardware details? Sounds like, Ravi, sounds like you're asking for like technical requirements for maybe a given node. We do have a server estimator. June, maybe you're dropping that link in already, but yeah, we have a page you can size up how much you actually need for a given node in your cluster. And that should help you figure that out if that's what you're asking. If not, please clarify. And the second question, how would you compare your MQTT with respect to the new Litmus one, which they have come out with? This is pretty recent. I have not tried the new Litmus broker. I bet Ben has, but he's not on here. So that would be, maybe that's something we should follow up on in the future. I wouldn't be surprised if we do. We're usually pretty good about putting out those head-to-head comparisons. In fact,
Yes. We have a few comparisons out there on our website, but I can say that let's talk about some differentiating features, right? So one is our support, and we stand by our product. Two is scale. Okay. So we've proven that we can connect 100 million devices, right? And so you may not be need anywhere close to that number now, but it's the confidence of knowing that you can continue to scale your IoT workflow and into the next generation, right? And that's just going to grow. This year, we re-engineered our architecture to make it more reliable and more efficient. And so that's why we're able to cluster and support so many devices. Also working in those enterprise features like rolling upgrades now, right? So now you don't have to shut down your broker in order to perform an upgrade. So
I know
working
that's like my
towards that.
favorite feature. No one's ever asked me, John, what's your favorite EMQX feature? But having had to do some of this kind of maintenance in the past. Oh man, hallelujah. Yeah, I was glad to hear we threw that in because that's a what do you call that? That's like a quality of life improvement feature, right? Like you don't have to get that call in the middle of the night, like, oh shoot, like we got to take this thing down so we can do that. It's just gonna take care of itself. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, more and more enterprises, more and more businesses are working towards that 99.9999% uptime, right? And so we want to help you get there. So yeah, definitely that new architecture helps with that.
Yeah, this is Jin. I just want to add something regarding the question about compare MQTT with respect to the new Litmus one. So yeah, I'm just looking at the website of Litmus. I think what they're doing is more like our product ECP, like a edge device management platform. also working for some data processing or data integration things. But for MQTT, EMQX is a messaging broker supporting various MQTT scenarios, including like connectivity, MQTT connection connectivity, and MQTT messaging, and also data integration for the EMQX enterprise. So that's actually, if we compare EMQX and Litmus, that's two different level of product. They have different focus. But for like EMQ's ECP product, I think there will be some similarity between these two products.
Yeah, I am familiar
Thank
with
you, June.
Litmus as a product. And yeah, they've been certainly making waves in the manufacturing space. The MQTT feature is newer. I think that was in the last month or so that I think that they just put that out. So yeah, we haven't gotten hands-on with it yet. But Litmus has I think they have a well earned reputation in the manufacturing space for making it easy to build applications on top of your manufacturing data, kind of like June was saying, right? But now maybe getting a little bit more into the actual infrastructure part, which is our specialty. So yeah, no idea at this point how it compares in terms of scale. Typically, this is where we differ, where we cross a little bit more with like the hyperscalers. Certainly that's an advantage of looking at somebody like an AWS or an Azure, right? If you're looking at a level of scale, then there's trade-offs there, right? You get tied into a particular ecosystem and we'll say a unique pricing model that each of those providers has. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have like the standalone or individual broker, right? That you run a single instance in a plant and you pull in all of that information. And 10 years ago, that's where EMQX was. At the time, I think it was called EMQTT. Now we're kind of bridging that gap, right? Of like, we're not tied into a platform, but we work with all of those platforms, right? We can integrate with those different services, regardless of where you need to move your data. Yeah, we are independent. We have open source roots, and we're still designed for scale, right? So if you look further down our roadmap, really what we're focusing on is things like a cluster to cluster linking, multi-region, multi-cloud support for users who are trying to build, legitimate global scale IoT infrastructure. So I would guess, without having looked at it hands-on, we probably still have a leg up on the Litmuses of the world and whatnot.
Thank you. We have about 4 minutes left before we close out. So still some time to engage to try to get that Amazon gift card. Thank you, Ravi. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, David, for participating. And again, this is for you. Welcome to our office, and we want to continue to engage with you both through our community, our Slack, our Discord, and make sure that you're subscribing and that you're joining monthly, so that we could help you on your IoT journey.
And thanks to Ravi and Phil, both for your appreciation. We definitely like showing up for you, and we appreciate you guys engaging. Ravi, lots to ask, but need to study before asking. I 100% understand, right? That's your job. That's why we're engineers, right? We're the people with the answers. That's what we get paid for. Please do come to the Discord. There's a lot of other people who are asking those same questions and probably trying to get the answers that you're looking for. They may even have them, and we'd love to follow up with you there. So yeah, please come drop in all your questions, and we'll keep talking.
Absolutely. And one thing that makes me proud with being part of the EMQ team is our developer resources. I mean, we're very involved in the open source community. We're involved in the MQTT standard itself with Oasis. And so we're really pushing the envelope for IoT and building some really cool and cutting edge solutions with our customers. So look forward to hearing more about your projects.
Is that a wrap?
Well, we have two more minutes. Two more minutes.
Yeah.
Almost there.
One thing I wanted to say too was everything that we discussed today is well documented, both in our documentation, also in press releases, blogs. So do encourage you to take a look for that finer detail. And with regards to 5.4.0, as noted on that previous slide, it is expected to release before the new year. So do keep an eye out for the press release that details and explains kind of what Ivan covered just in greater detail. So please do keep a lookout for that before the new year as a holiday present.
Thank you. And that about closes us out. Love the engagement. Thank you all for coming, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Happy
Thanks,
holidays.
everyone. Bye-bye. Merry
Bye.
Christmas and a Happy New Year to everyone before we meet again in January.
Same to you.